All right, welcome back to the show. This is going to be the last Strong Jon Fitness Podcast episode of 2021, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Miss Morgan Wallace, a strength coach and back rehab specialist from Toronto. We never did get to connect really when I was living in Toronto, but this is what social media is for. This is what technology is all about, right? We get to have this chat here. So thank you so much for taking the time. I'd love for you to just let everyone know who you are, what brought you to this point in your fitness career and in your fitness journey.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Been a big fan for years, so the pleasure is all mine. But my journey with the fitness industry, it definitely wasn't planned at all. I didn't think this would be my career. So I used to work with kids who come from low-income families and who are at risk behaviorally. So I did that for about 3-4 years. And I thought it was going to be my career. And then I moved to Toronto and I just couldn't get my foot in the door. So I think for entry-level position for NGO nonprofit work, it's about 7 years. So I was fresh out of university. Yeah. So I just couldn't get that career that I wanted. So then I was kind of in limbo for a bit, didn't know what I wanted to do, kind of was bartending, but I just moved to this new big city and had no idea what I wanted to do. So I kind of on a whim got certified through ACE in 2015. And I've kind of just been doing it ever since. But kind of going backwards, my life story, I grew up pretty active growing up, played basketball for a while. And I grew up in a family full of coaches and a big basketball family. So my dad played, both my brothers played. I played for a little bit, but it definitely wasn't my meal ticket to success by any means. And even now, my brother is the coach of the Queen's men's basketball team, and my dad refs university level. So wow. I'm super blessed in the sense that I kind of got to see that coach-athlete relationship pretty early and the whole time while I was growing up. So it definitely has impacted me big time now, translating it to being a coach myself. So that's been great. And that's it. 2015, I got certified, tried doing the freelancer thing for a few years. But I found the ceiling of growth and learning was pretty low when I tried. I think for freelancers, I feel that hustle is so huge when you're freelancing, right? You're like everywhere around the city, different gyms, different condos outside. So I couldn't take that time to study the way that I wanted to when I first started in the industry. So I luckily at the same time got recruited to 2 gyms, Chris's on the Danforth being one of them, and the other one, Studio Fitness, the one that I'm still at. So I've just kind of been here for 7 years now, trying to find my way through this very tumultuous industry that I now find myself in, but it's been great.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Where are you from originally?
Kingston, Ontario.
Kingston. Okay. So not too far, a little far off, but definitely a big shift, I guess, from there to Toronto.
Yeah. It's a pretty small city, a big, small city. But
yeah. That's all right. It must have been super, like, it's almost like coaching is in your blood, right? For it to run through your family like that. And it's almost like you were, I don't like throwing the word destiny out there a lot, but it's almost like this is just kind of what you're meant to do. I mean,
and I'm kind of blessed in the sense that, I mean, as much as I didn't get to do my youth work and the NGO work, the bottom line intention for both industries is just to help people. So in that sense, I'm lucky. It translated really well. And I still incorporate youth work into my life. So pre-pandemic, I was teaching kids basketball at the Y downtown and kind of volunteering there. So it's still a part of my life. So
that's awesome. Complaints. I love it. No, that's great. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show. That's any coach I bring on here. We're all about helping people first. Like, we're not in it strictly for financial reason. Yes, it comes with the territory because we got to live. And I know life in Toronto is not cheap, but you're clearly a very caring individual. Like, you do this because you love it. You love to help. And anytime we've conversed or anytime you put up content, I've seen it, it comes through. So that's why I wanted to bring you on here. So you talked about the freelance in the beginning on how difficult you found it. So did you find yourself like doing in-home training and traveling all around the city, or what did you any kind of online work back then, or what was it like?
No online work. I haven't dabbled in online training at all.
Really?
In my 7 years. except when I had to shift during the pandemic, but they were all clients who had already previously trained in person. So yeah, I kind of had the advantage in that sense, but I haven't started a client from scratch online.
Okay.
It's like a whole new world for me.
It's fresh to hear that. Yeah, considering I work with online coaches all the time. Yeah, that's funny.
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
But for freelancing, yeah, I was mostly in condos. So bouncing back and forth to condos, and that can be a nightmare because technically if you don't have insurance, you're not supposed to train out of condos. So I was constantly getting kicked out. Yeah, it was a headache. So, and then I wanted to kind of learn more of the business side. So I was happy I took the avenue of going to 2 different gyms. So it's been great. It's worked out really well for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember I trained, I think it was 5 to 7 clients within like City Place in Toronto. It was like 3 different buildings, and it was like 2 nights a week. But I remember like it was okay for a while because it's close. If you find a parking spot, it's cool. But then like over time, and I love my clients. It's not them. It's just like the travel there, like driving in that area between 5 and 8 p.m. is an absolute nightmare. And then, like you said, like technically I'm not even supposed to be in there. I'm not a tenant, I don't work for them. So it's kind of just at one point I was just like, this is too stressful. So I'm just going to go to a gym, stick to the gym, and anyone who wants to work with me can come to the gym. But obviously this is pre-pandemic, before everything happened. So then were you working out of Clear Cut and studio at the same time?
Yeah, both at the same time. And even that commute was a nightmare.
Yeah, Danforth to downtown, right?
Yeah, downtown. Yeah. And I live in City Place, so it's trying to navigate your way through downtown is enough. So I left Chris in Clear Cut and just kind of stayed at studio close to where I lived. But I wish I could have juggled things more. And obviously that switch from freelancing to working from a gym, you take a huge cut of money, right? So that was the biggest thing I had to get used to. But I learned so much more working side by side with other trainers. So I'm happy I took that route for sure.
I love it. No, that's great. You're like one of the sole like in-person only coaches that I know still here in 2021. Because I mean, everyone, if you weren't doing online, pre-pandemic, you were probably going online during. 100%. But you love your in-person training clearly, because if you didn't, you probably would have shifted away from it as well.
100%. I've had that conversation so many times with people where they asked if I would ever switch to online, and I said I would leave this industry before I switched to online.
Really?
Because it's those connections and those relationships I make with my clients that means so much to me that and maybe you can make them online. Again, I don't have the experience with it. But it's that like tangible in person that I love so much about this industry.
Yeah, no, that's fair. There's nothing quite like being on the floor with your client. Like you online is great, but you can't, it's unmatched, like you said. So I get it. Like if you love it, all the power to you. You just keep crushing it, because you'll be one of the best in-person trainers in the city. So just keep doing it, right? That's awesome. What were you gonna say?
I'll be the only one left. So,
it's okay. Last one standing. Yeah, take the throne for sure. So in terms of like your clientele, do you have like a specific niche you work with, or you just work with anyone? How does that work for you right now?
Yeah, so it's definitely what the gym gives you.
Okay.
Which is, which kind of takes the sales aspect out of it, which is nice. But I started general population as a strength coach. And then probably about 4 years ago, I started transitioning to prehab and rehab with a focus on back rehab, which again, Chris was a really big influence for me on that at my time at Clear Cut. And I think that's the path I want to continue on and learn as much as I can. So
that's awesome.
I'll still do general population and strength, but there's something about rehab and kind of, it's almost like solving a puzzle, solving something with a specific person that really, really ignites a fire in me. So
that's awesome. So like in terms of coaching people, do you find it easier to coach one or the other, or just one's more rewarding or one's more challenging versus strength versus back rehab?
Yeah, it's definitely just more rewarding. It's not easier either one. But I find, and this is the industry overall, very based on aesthetics, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but there's something deeper to helping people when it comes to solving their chronic pain, their pains they feel every day, things like that. So yeah, it's definitely just more rewarding. Definitely not easier though.
100%. Yeah, I've seen quite a few different people over the years for my ailments and specifically back pain. And like when you're in pain, especially the back, it's the worst. Like it literally, like I love everyone who helped me get through my back issues, because I wouldn't be able to do any of the things I did in the past 2 years if I hadn't got a fix for it.
100%.
So
especially as a dad, right? Like,
yeah.
what are you going to do when you're out of commission with your back? Like,
yeah, nothing.
Option, so,
yeah. When I had sciatica, I was useless. I felt so bad. Like my wife took on almost everything. And then since then, like we've had a second kid, and I can imagine, like, even now, even if I have a little bit of a, like, my back doesn't feel great, I won't go into like panic mode necessarily, but mentally I'm like, oh my God, like I have to be cautious and extra cautious to make sure like nothing just triggers that again, because it was the worst pain I'd ever experienced. So I thank you for helping people with their back pain, because I know how bad it is. Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I know you want to jump on to hot topic or hot topics, and I think I'm going to let you take the floor for most of it. But for everyone listening, Morgan is going to debunk some myths for you, which is honestly such a fun thing. And I love doing it too. I think it's just fun because people are so programmed to believe things, and whether it's usually word of mouth. It's usually just, that's the way it's always been, so it must be true kind of stuff. And I love when coaches can kind of really just, help people get away from that, because there's still so much education to be done for the general population 100%. For fitness and nutrition. It sucks because it feels like it hasn't gotten any better, right? If you just keep looking onto popular social media pages, or if you happen to see a Woman's World magazine or any of those other kind of magazines, you just look, and like I can think back 10 years ago and nothing's changed, like literally the same thing. So this will be fun. I want you to jump onto like which one like really just grinds your gears.
Oh man, I think before we get to specific ones, I think there's this overarching problem in the industry. And I think it all boils down and starts down with the certification process.
Nice.
Like we all know it's such an unregulated industry, so unregulated. You can go take a weekend course and be a personal trainer. And it seems like everyone's a personal trainer these days, right? But because it's so unregulated, I find it's very, very safeguarded. So the way that they teach us in these certifications is very, very black and white thinking, right? And we see that black and white thinking be translated through trainers into this industry all the time. So if we were to take a simple myth, like knees can't go over the toes when you squat, if I look back to how I was taught that in my certification process, all they said was, knees can't go over the toes. And that's all that I learned about it. So it's like we have this industry full of people who only know yes or no answers, and that's it. So I find the thing we're lacking the most in this industry is, and I speak to this all the time on my Instagram page, is that gray zone, that kind of middle road, the notion of relativity and like individual application of concepts to people as they come. So it's like they have all these things, the butt wink, knees over toes when you squat, safe spinal flexion is trainers only really ever know yes or no. And then when a client strays from that and a client's toes do go over their knees when they squat, or knees over their toes, they don't know what to do and they don't know how to fix it. So that to me is like this big gap in the industry of trainers who don't know what to do, right? If the client doesn't fit what they learned in the textbook, they don't know how to fix it and approach it and move past it. So I find there's so many band-aid solutions in this industry, and a lot of just yes or no answers that people are regurgitating and spitting out, and then it's just kind of going year from year. And that's why we're still hearing about the same stuff 12, 15 years down the road. Because no one takes the time to address that gray zone, I find.
And it's how do we take down the accreditations, right? Like the NSCA, ACE, what other big ones am I missing? NASM. And then CSEP. There's another one, I cannot forget them all. I see it, like that's where the problem lies. But if those organizations don't change, a 19-year-old who is like, you know what, I'm going to train people, goes to them now, same way you or I would have done or whatever. They don't know any different because that's all they're taught, right? I work with a lot of online coaches or new online coaches, and a lot of them are like, they haven't learned how to communicate with their clients. They haven't learned a gray zone much. It's just literally like all they know is how to program the perfect program. And
100%.
I've had this conversation with many people. I'm not sure if you have either. Like most people don't give two shits what their program looks like in terms of periodization, in terms of rep schemes, in terms of this and that. They just want to feel good. They just want to see some results for themselves. And yeah, they want to learn, but I think to the extent, not to the extent of, mesocycles and macro cycles and micro, like I don't know if you've run into anyone that really cares about that stuff, but I haven't.
Yeah, no, not at all.
No.
And I kind of like not once. And that's kind of my biggest challenge as now that I'm kind of entering more into this rehab world is how do I get clients interested in wanting to fix their structure before we start to load them, right? I've been doing this for 7 years. I think I've had one client come through my door who was ready to be externally loaded right away. It just doesn't happen. But that's what we're taught in, when we're going to school or in certification is, they show us how to cue someone who has perfect mobility, who squats like a baby, who has no past injuries. And you're not going to find a client who walks through the door like that. It's so rare, right? Everyone's sedentary, everyone's mobility shit. No one moves properly. So it's like, how do I get my clients to want to fix themselves structurally before we get to like the meat and potatoes of what PTing is? So that's my biggest challenge. But I think that's when it comes up to trainers just to set boundaries. And I've tried so hard to do that over the last years where I just work with clients who want what I want, right? So if someone wants to come in and, I've had guys come in who all they want to do is squat on a Bosu ball because they see LeBron doing it, right? Yikes. It's like breaking those things down, or females who just want a big booty but don't want to work out their upper body. It's like, if you don't set those boundaries as a coach about what you believe and what your morals are and what your standards are, then your clients aren't going to care regardless either way, right?
That's true. You lack the connection with them, and the trust factor breaks too. And then you're not happy, and then that can translate in your work too. It's a big disconnect. And I think it can happen a lot to younger or inexperienced coaches where they just want to please their clients. They want to do whatever they can to make their clients happy, even if it's not right for them, even if they know deep down, like they don't like what they're doing. And I think that's part of the problem is there's a lot of turnover in the industry too, where people will get in great shape themselves and think, okay, I'm going to be a trainer now. Right. This is another issue where people just like, and even that, like over the last, and I called it out last year, like every single person was an online coach all of a sudden. If someone lost 10 pounds, there's a link in their bio for coaching. And I'm like, what is happening here? This is not it. And it's tough because online coaching is even less regulated because literally nobody's really asking for certifications or any of that stuff. It's just like, who do you know? And what can they help? Like I saw a comment, one of my clients shared her amazing progress. And then one of the comments underneath it was like, yeah, I lost 30 pounds in a month and all I drank was lemon water. And in my head, I'm like, I don't want this person to influence my client in this manner, but I also don't want to come across as a jerk and say anything to this person. So I ignored it completely. I'm like, I can't for the life of me. Cause you know what, if you start conversation with people like that, or comments like that, it never wins. It's you lose, they lose. It just, you fight. And I don't know about you, but I'm not here for Facebook battles and stuff. I can't stand that shit. It's a waste of my time. Have you ever run across anything like that?
A few times. I mean, people are just always going to be trolls on Instagram, right? It's kind of the reality of life. But yeah, I'm told to stay in my lane pretty frequently. When it comes, like whenever I give coaching advice, whenever I show my lifts, whenever I do something, there's always someone telling me to stay in my lane. Always. What am I going to do?
What is your, I don't understand. What is your lane?
What's my lane? I know as a female, I guess, probably I assume is the approach they're taking. God. Yeah. But yeah, you can't take those people seriously too much. But yeah, going back to that point, I think there's a big lack because this industry is so based on aesthetics. There's this big lack from trainers. They don't understand how big of a responsibility it is, right? Like if you're coming and you're training somebody and you fuck up their back, they can't go to work. They can't make their money. They can't take care of their kid. Like you just messed up their entire lifestyle because you don't care to be educated. You don't care to know things properly. And because you just kind of, want to be an online coach, or for you, someone, like you said, lost weight and now they're a coach. So it's tricky. There's so many things in this industry I wish would change, but I think all you can do is just focus on your clients and people in your life on your roster and hope it trickles down and spreads that way, because it's too big of a beast at this point to try to change it. I
100%.
think until yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, until something from, like you said, higher up from the certification organizations happen, nothing's going to change, right? Because that's all where it comes from. So
yeah, and I think honestly, like you said it, the best thing we can do is just show up as our best for our clients, because our clients talk, and if they're happy, they'll tell other people, and whether they join with us or not, it's literally just spreading the good word, the education, which is again why I love having conversations like this with other coaches, because we're all here for the same kind of thing. Because you're right, like we're not, like I'm not going to take down an NSCA, like who the hell am I compared to them?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, I'm nobody. But if I can help 20 people, 50 people, 100 people with my content, my coaching, whatever it is, it's breaking down walls and barriers for them, which if people were before intimidated to work out or really had no clue, and they got some action steps, then I'm doing my duty, I guess, as a coach.
Yeah, 100%.
I
love that. Yeah, and I think that's all we can do.
Yeah, let's I want to see tear apart some myths. You know what which one bothers me? The squat like a baby. We're not babies.
No, not at all.
So why do you think our squats are always compared to, like, babies they can move because they've never sat in a chair for 30 friggin' years.
Yeah, it's this perfect mobility myth, right? That's how we're supposed to squat. Yeah, and again, it's hard to address it. It's so funny because when I first started in this industry and I first started to kind of notice all these nuances and things wrong with this industry, I was like taking to social media to try to fix them, and this is what it is and this is what it isn't. And now all my posts, unless it's philosophy, all my posts are basically like, nothing you read matters and everything is relative to you, because that's really the only advice I can give people is no matter how much info you retain online or how many workouts you copy or nutrition plans you take from other people, it's not going to be as relative to you as they think that they are. So it's all just such a waste of time. So my best advice is just focus so much more on yourself and what works for you and what you need to fix for yourself than being so like amazed by other people that you see on the internet.
I love that.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's true. And free information is everywhere. So if all the free information was all people needed, there would be, like, we would both be out of jobs, I guess, at the point. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I think the average person, and I'm pulling this stat out of my ass, but the average person probably follows, if they're following one coach on the internet, on social media, they're probably following 10 to 20 of them. So they're getting 10 to 20 different perspectives on nutrition, which is already a humongous topic, and then training, which is another massive topic, and then mindset around both of them. And no wonder people get overwhelmed if no one has that one person guiding them, or if they're not focusing on themselves and they're just focusing on everything else that they read. Shit, one account says intermittent fasting, one account says keto, one account says flexible dieting, one account says don't strength train. Like, it's just, no wonder people are all over the map, right? So you said it, like, you need to focus on what works best for you. And it's not an easy task, I think. I don't know how you suggest people would kind of do that, because if they're already overwhelmed, like, where would you kind of point them?
Yeah, I always just think it's minimizing the info load coming to you, right? Because you have to think, even when trainers, even if their intentions are great, everything they're saying is still loaded with their personal biases, right? What worked for them, what helped them. Like, it's not always coming from an intention of what's best for that client. So I think, kind of going back to that black and white way of thinking, that way of thinking is what works best for Instagram content, right? People want quick little bits of info and they want to feel like you're giving them value. So it's easy for a trainer to be like, knees can't go over, or toes can't go over the knees when you squat. It's way easier to throw that out and, feel like you're giving people something than it is to, like my posts, they're like 20 fucking paragraphs and I'm trying to explain this gray area and how nothing matters. It doesn't resonate with everybody, right? Especially people who aren't educated or don't have the background we do. Yeah. So I get why these little weird tidbits of info are always floating around, because they're used as a quick way to grab clients and grab, all these things that trainers need. But so I always think the less info, the less trainers you follow, the less you kind of surround yourself with all of that, especially nutrition. I think that's even worse than training.
Agreed.
Like don't follow someone else what they eat in a day. You have no idea what they do in a day, what their body fat is, like all of this. So it's the more you minimize, the more you focus on yourself, I think the more success people have.
I love it. And I love the gray zone. And I always, people ask me questions. Most of the time I answer with, it depends. Because if I answer a question with like a direct, like this is the way it is, but I know nothing about you, your background, your history, your mental health, like I can't really help you. So it's always, it depends. You said something there and I lost it. Oh, the what I eat in a day. I've been asked by a few people to do those and I thought about it. I mean, A, I don't have the time to sit there and record everything I eat for Instagram, and B, it doesn't help. I think people just, they like to follow what other people are doing. And I think you already alluded to that. And
100%.
I can kind of help, I guess, from like, unless I was able to explain every meal and why, but even then, like my 15 plus years of training experience, plus my 15 plus years of, whether it's body dysmorphia, whether it's dieting, muscle gain, whatever, it's still, that leads to what I'm doing now, which doesn't necessarily help the person. You're freaking opening this up. This is great. Yeah, you're even opening my mind. I'm like, this is awesome. Like my content's going to change. I'm like, I got to be more gray zone. This is great. I love it.
100%, right? Yeah. Because I think we're missing so much in this industry is context. No one, people will post things without any context. Like I remember when I first started kind of getting into the fitness industry before I was a trainer, I would be following these accounts and I didn't know at the time that they were girls competing. They were bodybuilding girls, right? So that I'd look at their diets, they're eating 1,200 calories a day, telling me not to have carrots, not to, not to have sweet. And I'm this like 17-year-old girl listening to all of this because they didn't give any context. So even if your intention is so great as a coach and you're like, here's what I eat in a day, if you're not giving them that context, you're gonna be influencing people whether you realize it or not. And chances are it's not going to be in a good way because they just don't have the knowledge that we have to then take it and apply it for what works for them.
100%.
So,
yeah. And to add to that, if anyone has any type of diet or anything in their name on Instagram, please don't follow them, because you know what you're going to get from Keto Karen or the Flexible
100%.
Dieting Master or whatever their name is. You know what I mean? So for anyone listening, if they have a diet name in their bio or their name, don't even bother. Like I would
100%.
not even recommend. What other myths kind of have gotten at you, maybe in the last few years more so?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to that point you just said, because I think it relates to training too, because I see it all the time of booty specialists.
Oh shit.
There we go. So that's another one, right? Like, and it's just an instance of coaches picking up on keywords that are trendy or that, people want to be right now. Girls want to have a big butt. So they put booty specialist in their bio to try to sell more. No one's a booty specialist, right? Like how to grow a booty is the same as how you grow any other muscle. It's muscle psychology. It does, it's brain specialist, maybe, it's a little more, a little more
just a little bit,
but it doesn't apply to things like that. But again, these people who have no education, they see it and that's what reels them in. And that's how people kind of get away with this shit. So again, another myth. There's no such thing as a booty specialist.
There you go.
If anyone's out there looking for one.
Nice. I love it. If you can grow a muscle, you can grow any of them.
100%.
That's really it.
Yeah.
Except for my calves. They just won't grow.
Yeah. Well, that's everybody on the world. That's everybody's problem. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Let's what's one I haven't dove into myths in a while.
There's just a ton. I think there's two different kind of myths, right? I made a post about this a while ago that someone could say something and it could gain traction instantly overnight in this industry, whether it was rooted in facts or not. So like the newest one is the butt wink, right? Now you have this whole generation of trainers that are black and white in thinking, that they don't understand that the butt wink doesn't have to be necessarily a bad thing. And even before you rule it out as a bad thing, there are a million other things that you need to look at, right? You need to look at that individual's specific limitations, or you have to take a concept and apply it to an individual, right? So it's all these things are coming out, the butt wink, rounding of your upper back, all of these things. And they're myths in the sense that they're considered bad, but they're not actually bad until you actually break them down to that individual person.
Yeah. The butt wink I've fought for a number of years because like I've always kind of I struggled with back pain for a lot of the time pre-sciatica. So I was like, I'd read about butt wink, then I try to fix the butt wink. Then I thought I had it fixed. And then I'd take videos of myself squatting and it'd come back, but I wouldn't have any back pain. I'm like, okay. And then I helped a friend, I helped train him. He'd have a butt wink, but I've learned by this point that butt wink isn't necessarily a bad thing. So it's like all these things, like if you read 3 different articles, you can get 3 different answers on if it's bad or not.
100%.
Unless you apply it to the person, you wouldn't really know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of just my whole approach to this industry I'm taking. And I'm really lucky in the sense right now that I'm in a management position in this gym. So I'm kind of in control of what they learn and what education I bring in. So kind of my biggest focus right now is when things like the butt wink come up, how do they fix it? How do they break it down? How do they analyze it? Because I just want a group of trainers that don't fall for everything that comes through this industry, right? Because there's always going to be bullshit in this industry. It's always going to be rapidly changing. And I say it all the time. If you don't stand for something in this industry, you will fall for everything, especially when you only have this black and white way of thinking, right? Because you just don't know any better. You don't know how the body moves. You don't have general anatomy. So it's just, I don't even know. It's just re-education we need so bad in this industry.
So do you guys supply courses and stuff for the trainers at your gym? Yeah.
So we bring people in externally, and then I do a lot of it as well. And even for them, it's teaching them, like, you don't need to have perfect anatomy knowledge. No client gives 2 shit what that muscle is called. No one cares, right? But you do need to have a knowledge of how the body works, so that if you have a client who can't squat to depth, you know what to look at, right? And that's another big thing with this industry is we just blanket everything. So I remember it was probably my first year, I was talking to a pretty veteran personal trainer, and I was asking, how do I help my client squat to depth? And he walked away and he came back and he handed me a lifting wedge. He was like, here, just like you just use this. And I was like, yeah, like conceptually, I get what you're saying, but how do I fix it? How do I fix it and address it so that this is, a long-term solution for him? And he was like, why do you care about that? So like instantly I was like, this industry is so Band-Aid solution oriented.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I can teach people, if I can teach my staff to know how to fix things as they come up and how to apply individual concepts, individual people, kind of based on their structural, specifications and limitations.
I love it.
That's all I'm looking to do.
That's the way to do it. And I mean, part of the problem is too, like the consumer, whether it's their own fault or not, like that's part of the issue, because they want the quick fix. With the lifting wedge helps the quick, like, okay, I'll squat to depth with this. Or for me, it's like, it's been lifting shoes or Olympic lifting shoes to raise because my ankle mobility sucks. So I'm like, okay, that's an easy way to do it. So like consumers want the quick things. So coaches give them the quick things. And then we're stuck in this matrix of just Band-Aids all the time, 100%. Whether it's cutting carbs, whether it's lifting wedges, whether it's, I don't know, other training modalities that really don't help people. The one I really strongly dislike, and I don't know what your thoughts on this are, is I'm not the biggest fan of boot camp classes. And like, I might get heat for this from people. I'm not a huge fan of like F45 or Orange Theory or any of those, and no disrespect to the companies, but the model of training for most people who do them is not beneficial.
100%. And honestly, a big chunk of the clientele that comes to us as a PT private boutique gym are people injured from group classes.
There you go.
Because you're right, the model just doesn't work. It's either a terrible ratio of trainers to clients, so there's always higher risk for injury. And then on top of that, you can't really progress it, right? How are you going to progress a group class when you're using the same weights every single week, or it's changing every single week? So, but there are people who like to do it, right? It's kind of that community feel, that vibe that people like, which I get totally. But I think my advice is always this: take at least 1 or 2 PT sessions before, so you can hammer down form with a personal trainer who can just focus on you, and then go do group classes if you want.
100%.
But just jumping into a group class when you have no no basis of how to move is such a recipe for disaster.
100%. Yeah. Like, I mean, if it's not that boot classes are inherently bad, it's literally the individuals doing them. Maybe they don't have the body awareness. Maybe they're unaware. Like if someone knew was like, okay, I'm going to get in shape this year. Let me just join at 45. I like the gym sounds cool. I'm going to join. And they jump into from couch to like this high intensity circuit. A, they're going to feel like absolute shit. B, they run a high risk of being injured. Not to mention, if they're a beginner, they have no idea. Like if they're asking to do push-ups, squats, lunges, like, and if you don't have someone there watching you, because I think it's like a 1 to 20 probably at least. That's a really tough go. And I think you said it, like having someone look at you first. And I don't know why these companies don't, like, you want to do a class, great. Let's set you up with a 20-minute kind of one-on-one first, and then give you the class that would suit you. And any companies listening to this, take the module, take it from me, no charge, that's fine, just cut me a commission check.
Seriously.
But you know what I mean, like that's a good point. Like having someone kind of filter the people in or out, like, you know what, you're not ready for body attack or whatever it's called class, let's start you with this one. That's a big deal. But I think people, I mean, it's good that they're exercising, so there's that, but it's just, they're just there to sweat. And I think that's the part, right? People go to them for fat loss. I want to lose fat, I want to lose this, and they sweat and like, yes, I'm gonna do it. Not understanding, there's so many more things involved to that end result. That's more than just sweat.
100%. Yeah, I think some of my hardest clients I have come from group classes, because one, they only see exercise as kind of punitive, right? So they think, like you said, sweating equals a good workout, not taking breaks equals a good workout. So trying to get them to slow down and go through, a structured strength program of 3 straight sets of the same exercise with 45-second break, they lose their fucking mind. Like they don't know what to do, and they think they're not getting a good workout. And then it's like, then you freak out as a coach, and it's like, no. But I think it's really risky, because you, like you said, you have these entry level novice lifters going into a class that they don't know how to squat or even do a push-up, but then they're getting burpees done, right?
Oh my
so it's
God.
like you can't even do the basic movement, and then we're going to add acceleration to it, and it's so messy. But it really is just that punitive vibe I think people like, and it's shitty because then that's what they associate to exercise. So
I have a few clients there. I'm like, you're getting 90-second rest for these exercises. And they're like, why? I'm like, because you need it. We're trying to build strength here. You need to rest. I don't think I've worked out with, like, unless I'm doing like a burnout at the end, of like less than 60 to 90 seconds of rest. Like I want to lift, I want to breathe heavy, and I want to rest for 2 minutes, and I want to do it again. But I mean, it's years of doing that. I get the feeling of accomplishment from, like, going through a really tough workout, but it's exhausting. Like it's mentally and physically draining. Whereas, and I'd say you'd say the same, is you want your clients leaving with more energy, not feeling like they can't go to work after if they worked on a lunch break, 100%. Or you had to go pick up your kids and you're dragging your feet because you're so tired from your workout. Like that doesn't sound like it's improving life.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't know that, right? Because like you said, like we touched on earlier, it's the quick results they want, right? So if you're going to leave a class being super sweaty, super tired, beaten down and exhausted, you think, I did good. Whereas strength, you go to a strength program and they build off each other weekly and daily, and it's more of a long run kind of gain. They don't see it right away. They don't feel it. So for them, it's always such a struggle to try to reteach that way of thinking. But I've seen a big decline of group classes. There was a few years ago where we were getting our asses kicked to group classes. We were slow, and it was like when Barry started to come and Spin and all these places, we really took a big hit. And now I noticed it's a lot more back to kind of PT proper training.
Which is saying, I mean, the pandemic has part to do with it too, I guess, because groups can't do it. But at the same time, over the course of almost 2 years straight now, like coaches such as yourself have been educating people still on the importance of strength training and long-term. And I think maybe people are starting to come around and realize it overall. I mean, who's to say who's learning what out there, right? But all we can do, like you said, is just focus on the messaging that we put out to help the long-term solutions. Because, if you lost weight 10 years ago and you got to come back and lose it again, the diet didn't work. right? That's
100%.
had that conversation so many times. And with January coming up, I'm sure I'll have it again with a number of people.
Yeah, definitely. How are you? So I've noticed this big shift in the industry lately of kind of more body acceptance, more all of this, and kind of less shift on aesthetics. So there's definitely less more before and after photos, all of this. You find that that's affected you as a nutrition coach?
No,
No,
absolutely not. No, I mean,
amazing.
Anyone that's come to me, like, I always make sure that they know that I'm not that judge and shame and guilt kind of coach. And I think it comes across in my content, because I think everyone who's come to work with me has vetoed me through other people, through the website, through the Instagram, which is good. That's what I want them to do. I don't want anyone to come to me blindly and say train me, because that's not, I want someone who we fit. We're the same page. Like you said earlier, like, you want someone who wants the same things that you do. So for a lot of my clients, like, weight loss is a goal, but it's almost the byproduct of everything else that they really truly want, which is more energy, to be more consistent overall with their eating habits, with their exercise, to start exercising consistently if they're not already, and prevent any long-term health problems. A lot of my clients are moms. They're mostly over 35. They want to keep up with their kids as they get older. They want to see their kids graduate. They don't want to be 60 plus and have to rely on medications. Like, that to me is the most important thing, but it doesn't sell, right? Obviously, that's why I'm in my bio says online weight loss coach, because that's people's initial thing. It's not until I get them on a call and talk about what else is more important to them than just the 10 to 20 or 30 pounds. It's the energy, it's the confidence, it's the showing up as what they feel is the best version of themselves, whether it's weight related or not. But I find one of the biggest shifts and things I'm trying to help most of the moms with is consistent strength training, because most of them have a hard time with the scale, which is understandable, because that thing can be a piece of shit. But they want tone, they want muscle definition, but they haven't trained for an extended period of time with progressive overload, with resistance, with not dieting on 1,000 to 1,200 calories. The biggest shift has been trying to teach them about, fat loss can happen without the scale doing a thing. And some of them, we don't use the scale at all, which has been great, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in that number. I'm not sure if you find that with some of your clients too. I always tell them, like, men have it so fucking easy when it comes to the data and the numbers. And any couples that work together with me, I tell usually the woman not to compare herself to her counterpart, because it's not fair. Like, they're not on the same journey whatsoever. A man's month is the same from day 1 to day 30. A woman's is not at all.
We got like 4 months in one.
You know what I mean? So, like, you guys have it so hard. So, like, the scale is like, it's not helpful. And again, that's what most women are like, this weight and this weight. And I try to dig deeper and, like, but why that weight? Like, what's the reason behind it? So, to go back to your original question, it hasn't hurt. I think the pandemic has helped people a lot with self-realization about long-term health. I think that's the biggest 100%. Thing. Where aesthetics, if it's important to them, that's fine. And I have no problem with that. I don't think it's vain. Some people are like, oh, but it's vain. I'm like, if this matters to you, it matters to you. I'm not here to judge you. I like to look good. I like to feel good. When I feel like I look 100%. Good, I show up the best version of me. So whatever's the best version of them, I want to help them get there. So it's been good. I mean, 2021 has been a roller coaster. 2022, who knows what's going to happen in terms of the industry, in terms of what people want, stuff to really say. What about you?
It's I think, I don't know, I could form and kind of ebb and flow with all these different changes of the industry, but I'm just going to stay in this sense in my lane. I'm going to stick to my rehab. I'm going to stick to what I know. I'm going to stick to helping people, stick to my boundaries, and just try to change it, kind of where I can. Because I think as much as we want things to change in this industry, I think it's just the landscape of it. So the more we can help people kind of sort through the bullshit in the best way that we can, that's all we can do.
That's what we can do.
I love it.
Yeah. What's the biggest bullshit you face this year?
Oh man. What's my biggest thing? I struggle the most with female clients, which I think most coaches do. Getting them to train and lift weights is always such a struggle. And it goes beyond even they don't want to get bulky kind of myth. I hope we've debunked that by now, that it's incredibly hard for females to put on muscle, and it does not happen after lifting 10 pounds once. But it's getting, like you said, kind of digging deeper and getting them to understand the importance of it, especially for women, right? Like we face everything pretty early. So, our bones start to go at age 30. Like, it's super important for women, for our hormones, for everything. So as much as I can get women away from just wanting a big ass and actually wanting to be strong and finding that sense of strength within themselves, because you see it the moment you get them in a weight room for more than a month, their confidence is so much better, right? Like, females don't know they can be strong like that. They don't know they can take up space. They don't know they can be in the weight room with guys and feel good. So it's always my biggest struggle, is getting women in there and feeling confident and having them understand they're capable and they should be there too, and kind of sort through all that bullshit again.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely setting a great example for them. I see your lifts, strong as fuck.
Thanks,
that's great. Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah,
helping people off the treadmill, off the stairmasters and shit.
Yeah, 100%. And I just try to be as honest as I can in my posts, because again, like I said, even if you don't realize it, you're influencing somebody, right? So like, I'm super dishonest about my training right now is not really where I want to be, and I'm not doing the lifts I want to do because of my back injury, and it's been like going on 3 years with it. But the more transparent I can be, I don't show my diet, I don't really show anything. And if I give tips, it's definitive tips, right? It's factual tips. And that's kind of another thing. So RDLs are great for glute growth. Boom. That's a factual tip across the board, right? Let's share that kind of stuff. But when we start to get to things again, like the butt wink and everything that's more based on biomechanics and specific things of that individual, that stuff needs to be squashed. And we shouldn't be sharing it online because it is so confusing. It's confusing for us, and we're educated, right? Imagine people who have nothing trying to sort through all of this. You hear like 6 different things by lunchtime. It's exhausting. So.
Yeah. I recommend everyone, especially if you're hanging out with family this holiday season, just politely disregard everything they're talking about when it comes to fitness and nutrition. Like, honest, like, this is not, I'm not trying to be a dick, like 110%. I've had conversations I've walked away from. I've had family members that I won't engage. They know I'm a coach. They know what I do. I'll give like the bare minimum, not to be rude, but anyone in here, anyone listening to this who wants to get in great shape, whatever your goals are for the next year, do not try to engage in arguments. I wouldn't even engage in anyone who tells you what to eat, how to train, unless they're certified and they know you entirely and you want their help. Don't bother. Like, that's my nugget for this episode. Because it's coming to that point of the year where a lot of people they'll hear it all from people that they don't want to. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And it's so stressful, and yeah, it's a super stressful time. I think you just gotta quiet out everything else around you and just focus on you, right? And find the right coach that actually focuses on you and is more kind of dedicated to your long run and your long health form journey, not short-term results, right? There's some big red flags when it comes to coaches, 2-week transformations, 30 pounds down in 3 weeks. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's still floating around that people still go for and still buy.
Yeah.
But you can tell when a coach is actually invested in you and when you're just a paycheck to them, right? So
agreed. Yeah. Have a genuine conversation with the coach before you 100%. Click the link in their bio or whatever it is. Yeah. And you'll get a gist of who that person is. 100%.
Yeah. Or I always just tell people, ask them questions, right? Like, you're giving them your money. If you have ankle issues and you need someone to actually address that in your program, ask them how they're going to address it. Nice. Ask them what they're doing to deal with that for you, right? So that you're not just getting a template, because there will be a lot of coaches who won't be able to answer it, and then you just saved yourself the despair of working with a shitty coach, right?
Yeah.
So
It's cookie cutter programs, 100%.
Yeah. They're horrible.
Yeah. So this is the point of the podcast. This is being fucking awesome. We need a part 2 next year.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear one. This is a hard question. Is one golden nugget if you can leave the audience with?
I feel like I kind of already spoke to it, but be more curious about what works for you than strangers on the internet. Just give yourself that grace and that self-love enough to dig deep into yourself, right? Like you were talking about, ask your whys, ask why you want this, ask what's actually fueling you, ask what's an actual realistic timeline for you to achieve these things. And, you know, go see a physio if you need and understand your actual injury, understand everything. Stop just like seeing this girl who you think has a banging body on Instagram and try to be her, because it will not translate in the way that you think that it will. So give yourself that grace, try to learn a little bit more about yourself and come up with a journey that actually works for you.
I love it. That's a mic drop moment right there.
Yeah,
Morgan,
right?
Thank you so much for taking the time. Where can everyone
course.
find you on the internet?
Oh man. Well, I'm only on Instagram. So MW Lifestyles. I post about once every 5 months, but
That's true.
come join the party anyway. But yeah, that's about the only place that I am. So
that's fair. Every time I see a Morgan post, I'm like, shit, this is gonna be important, because it's like every couple of weeks, which is good, which is fine. I mean, nothing wrong with that. You don't want to be the person who just spitball shit out there just to put content out there. So it's all the power, right? All the power to you. And I find, as someone who posts content every day, I find those who don't post as frequently more powerful, because I'm like, they're not posting as much. I need to see what's driving them to post right now. So I might take a page out of your book next year. We'll see.
Yeah. That gets people a little more curious. Right? When I do
like,
pop on.
Morgan has something to say. I need to see what's up right now. Yeah, it's a big deal. I love it.
I need to read this 19 paragraph essay.
Dude, long form content, and that long form content is where it's at, because those who read will love you and trust you, because you're not just there to say, and I've done it, you know, the 3 best ways to eat more protein, which is great, but at the same time, it's surface level. It's not deep, right? You want people to think, which is important, which is super friggin' important. And again, we need a part 2. I gotta go prep dinner for the family. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Have a amazing holidays, and
everyone
definitely go follow Morgan, even though she posts, you know, bi-weekly.
Still
very important stuff. She knows her shit. And anyone in Toronto, go and check out Studio Fitness. Fitness.
Yep. Downtown.
Legit. I'm gonna visit the city one time, and I'll come.
Yeah. Let's come in for a lift.
100%.
Yeah.
I do still lift at times.
Yeah. Right. Dad life. You're busy.
Yeah. All right, Morgan. Thanks so much.
All right. Talk soon. Of course. My pleasure.
Bye.